Good evening, everyone. We are going to get started. So as you're coming in, please find a seat. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the IETF 126 plenary meeting here in Vienna. My name is Roman Daniliu, and I am chair of the IETF, and I'm going to facilitate us through the evening. For those of you that are joining us online, welcome as well. As I look out to the crowd, I think just how different it really is. I think looking out, there are more people sitting here in this plenary room, which is a fraction of actual participants. And I think this is more than the number of people we had total across the entire meeting when we were here in Vienna several years ago coming out of the pandemic. So it's really kind of wonderful to see us back to this fabulous city and kind of see us back and forth working on the latest in internet standardization and in research supporting those activities. So this is, of course, an IETF meeting, and with every IETF meeting, what's applicable are the various policies and procedures to our organization, which are enumerated in the note well. Please take a moment to familiarize yourself with that by clicking on the link associated with that QR code and reviewing those policies if you are not already familiar with them. We have our usual standing agenda. We will have a welcome from our host, followed by reports from our different leadership bodies, followed by the IETF, the nomination committee, the Intellectual Property Management Corporation, then the Administration LLC, and then you'll have an opportunity as the community to ask questions of the different leadership bodies. And this year, this meeting, the order is the IAB followed by the ISG, followed by the IETF LLC board. This meeting, I hope you've been finding it as successful and as productive as I have, is only due to the hard work of lots of different people and lots of different organizations supporting the IETF. The first I wanted to recognize are the professional staff that makes this meeting possible. That's the Secretariat, the MIECO, the NOC, the RPC, IANA, and the LLC staff. But I also want to recognize the volunteers that run the programs inside the meeting. That's those helping with the guides and the new participant program, and of course the ombuds that's ever present in our meetings and also is virtual. So let's please give them a round of applause for making this meeting happen for us. The other big thank you I want to have is to our meeting host, and I would invite to the stage Fluffy Jennings, the Cisco Fellow and CTO, for a few words as our meeting host from Cisco.
Thank you. It's a great night here. I've got my popcorn. I'm at the plenary. It just doesn't really get much better than that. It will be an excellent plenary. I'm looking forward to it. So, what I really wanted to say is thank you to everyone for coming. I know that it's a huge time commitment for us to all travel and come here. I know there's this incredible amount of volunteer work that has been done by everyone to make this happen, everyone from the people who set it up to all of our chairs, document authors, ISG, IAB, the whole group. So thank you for this. It's really important what we do here. Cisco finds it very important to us. That's why we continue to always sponsor it. But it's really important to the world. And I think that sometimes we don't step away and think about the overall impact that the internet's having across it and how much we drive that, we being the people in this community in this room. So I thank you for coming. I thank you for engaging with everyone and having great times, throwing a little popcorn maybe, and have a great night.
On behalf of the IETF community, we are grateful for Cisco's support, so I'd like to present this plaque to you on behalf of the community, to you and the company.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Thanks.
But I'll take my coat.
I have a habit of, if you've seen me, not knowing whether it's to mail it or not, and there's sometimes a tug of war associated with that. All right, so next up in the agenda, I wanted to go through the chair report and the ISG report. there's a few details that I'm going to surface that I'd like to make sure that everyone sees here tonight. This is, of course, only a subset of what has actually been summarized and reported. For additional details about everything I'm going to talk about and more kind of topics, especially kind of trends that we typically report, they are not here. Please do check the standing report, and the link there, and it will also be linked in the proceedings, has significantly more information posted in advance of this meeting. So you probably heard me when I opened with a little bit of excitement. This is a huge meeting. The turnout is about 1,900 people, which I had Cindy from the Secretariat look up what that means in terms of the historical baseline. So the last time we had a meeting that had 1,900 people, it was San Diego, December 2000. So quite a long time ago. Maybe I should ask, who was in San Diego at that time? Nice. Yeah, my first IETF meeting was the one in Pittsburgh right after that. So exciting. So by all the numbers, huge turnout here. It's, like I said, amazing to kind of see you, given last time we were in Vienna. The equally is a tremendously large hackathon by participant count. I think if you think about 750 registration for hackathon, we've had much smaller meetings than just the hackathon participation alone. So it's wonderful getting that running code, and a huge number of projects also coming in. And we're seeing consistent trend lines that if you look around to your right and left, there's a cluster of 5 of you. Statistically, 1 of you has never been to the IETF meeting before. This is roughly what we always see. For those of you that this is your first meeting, kind of welcome to the IETF. We can't wait to see you at the next meeting as well, and hope to see you in some working group. I've already kind of said the last time we were even this close was almost 26 years ago. So we have blown by the high water marks that we typically track in recent memory, where it's an incremental growth. So huge turnout here, very, very exciting. And to report on the trends of where everyone's coming from, we're seeing broad kind of participation from lots of places in the world. One thing I wanted to dive into kind of this time, because we have a unique opportunity that the administration, the IETF Administrative LLC just published the community survey that I hope many of you responded to, that gives us the broader contextualization of who is the community, and Jay is going to talk in his report a little bit more about that. But 2 things I wanted to highlight is, while we have a huge turnout here today, that is but a fraction of the overall IETF community. We reach with our mailing list and the engagements we have beyond the meetings and the engagement we have in the interim meetings. We're pushing about 50,000 unique identities. We measure them by kind of email addresses, so there's probably a little bit of duplication, but we're talking about tens of thousands of people that make the standards and the research possible in the IETF and in the IRTF. And the other observation that we have from that community survey is that about half of them continue to participate in that way through our interim meetings and through the mailing list, and do not come to the plenary meeting as kind of reported. They've never shown up at any plenary meeting at all, and they're still participating, which is phenomenal. The other trend that we see kind of repeated that I want to highlight, I talked about raw size, I talked about where they're coming from. Let's talk about the stakeholder community, because the charm of the IETF is that we convene a multi-stakeholder forum, and our community survey really repeats what we've observed for over kind of many years, that we're about half of that participation is industry, about a fifth of that is academia, and then government and civil society is about 10% respectively. If you're wondering what that gray means, what does others kind of stand for? Well, what are these other stakeholder communities? Other means there's a very, very small fraction of individuals that said, I have retired, and so I don't consider myself having a stakeholder community. There was also a large number of individuals that said, prefer not to say. So that's the 7% outlier there. So moving into IESG business, there has not been any new statements issued since we last convened at IETF 125. There's been a number of announcements. I'm going to talk about the specifics of each one of them, so I won't dive into it. But the one I did want to showcase is the tagline you see at the bottom. The NOMCOM is going to be speaking to you, I think, in 2 talks to pick the future leadership. So we're going to have a Q&A with leadership across the table, and very shortly in the fall, we will be starting the process to replace many of those faces that you'll be seeing sitting at these tables, and your input for that is crucial. If you are interested in potentially serving in one of those positions, being an area director, the ISG will be having colloquially Ask Me Anything, Ask the ISG Anything. Come get that personal perspective, have one-on-one conversations about what that job is like and see whether that's a good fit, and maybe that will convince you to stand. So join us tomorrow for that. To report out on appeals, since the last time we got together, there were six new appeals filed, 5 related to activities in the TLS working group, and 1 filed around an activity coming out of the IRTF. I have this podium to talk about many things, but I also run the general area, and I always like to showcase what's happening there, primarily because that affects each and every one of you. It's a cross-cutting across all working groups. So I would always invite you, if you are wondering how the process is related to assigning code points, or you have ideas about how those processes should change, please come to the IANA BIS working group, which is the first one listed there. And if you have interest in evolving the processes related to the Internet Standards process, that is what the ProCon working group is doing. ProCon is meeting tomorrow. You missed IANA BIS, but you can catch up. That convened earlier this week. And to tease something that's going to be coming, the outward-facing processes by which the IETF interacts with liaisons to other standards development organizations, which is crucial to building things like digital public infrastructure or large-scale deployment on the internet. We have processes, of course, that are RFCs that guide that. They have recently been revised by the IAB, and they are now coming into the IETF stream for approval. So I'll be coming to you into the community for that feedback to see whether we have consensus to publish those. So the big thing I want to announce that's happened since IETF 125 is that RFC 9945 got published. That has defined the new moderation process for the community. We are now in the process of implementing that guidance. The first of those things to implement is defining and appointing a moderation team. And the ISG has found these 4 extremely capable kind of individuals. We have Chris, Martin, Braun, Susan, Murray, and Mohit, who have graciously volunteered to be the first moderation team, and they will be the ones responsible for defining the procedures by which RFC 9945 will be implemented, and ultimately this will go to community feedback and have to be approved by the ISG before being in operation. So I'd really like to take a moment to recognize the tremendous request and load we have put on this crucial role in the team. So really thank you for volunteering to that team, and I'd like to kind of recognize them. And one other adjacent announcement I'd like to make is that implementing that moderation process tasked the IESG to define a forum where moderation should occur for the community, and that has been designated as the former mailing list of the ModPod working group, the Mod Discuss. So that is the place where we should bring community conversations associated with that. And as the moderators begin their deliberation with their processes, I'm sure there will be more communication to the community on those matters. And another team that had a recent change in personnel that I'd like to highlight is the crucial Ombuds team. So the Ombuds team focuses on ensuring the consistent application of the IETF anti-harassment policy. They are a resource to us here in the community to handle situations where you may have observed harassment in the organization or you yourself feel like you have been harassed, and they are a resource that you can come to work through those claims and ensure that does not happen inside the community. I'd like to recognize an outgoing member of the Ombuds team. Sophia Selly served 3 years as an Ombuds, on the Ombuds kind of team. And equally, I'd like to recognize that Padma is the incoming member of the Ombuds team. She has just agreed to join. So I would like to really recognize them as well, Sophia for her service and Padma for her willingness to serve in the community for us. And last, the Ombuds team asked me to add the bottom information. They are a resource to you, whether you need them for things that are happening remotely or whether things are happening here on site. So if you'd like to reach the Ombuds team, you can always get them through that email alias that you see there. If you want to reach out to someone remotely, Avri and Siobhan are standing by remotely. We also have part of the Ombuds team here on site, so you can either find Padma or David if you'd like to instead talk to someone in person. That alias gets the Ombuds team whether they're remote or in person. But if you want to track them, track a human down here at the venue, they are circulating around with a little tag on their badge. And the last thank you I would have before I turn it over to the next speaker is to really recognize the hard work of your ADs that are working the standards process on your behalf, whether moving documents through your working groups or helping you spin up new working groups. And that's frankly only possible through the generous support of largely their employers. Not everyone is employer kind of sponsored, but those are represented here. And so I wanted to take a moment to signal appreciation for those organizations supporting them. So one more time. So with that, I'd like to turn over the stage to my colleague, Drew, who's going to come up to talk about the IEB.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dhruv. I'm the IEB chair. So we also have a much more detailed report that you can find on our proceedings on both ieb.org as well as on the IETF 126 proceeding. We also had a session called IEB Open, which happened yesterday. If you are interested in IEB activities, look at the recordings for that and the proceedings. You'll find a lot more details than what I'll cover in my short report right now. So one of the activities that IEB does is organize workshops, and our final step in a workshop is we publish reports. So we have published our reports for 3 of those, and the final workshop that we did last December, even that we have shipped from IEB side, and it will be published soon. IEB is also responsible for the liaisons. We recently established a new liaison relationship with Optical Internetworking Forum, OIF, and we wanted to highlight that. And as Roman was mentioning about some of the updates in the document, yes, those are things which are still currently in the IEB stream, and we will be passing it on to Roman pretty soon. IEB is also responsible and in tracking and coordinating outreach activities with the ISG, and we undertook some of these activities since the IETF 125, of which I wanted to highlight a few. We went to operator communities like RIPE, BlackNIC, as well as NANOG, and we have plans to go to APNIC as well in the coming months. We also participated in some other events, some IEB members and leadership like RSA conference, where we talked about some of the working groups' work output, as well as a pre-IETF event in India called Connections. And finally, we are also responsible for appeals. Since IETF 125, we received 3, and we responded to all 3 of them. And with that, let me pass it on to Doug.
Yes, hello. I'm Dirk Kutscher. I'm the chair of the Internet Research Task Force, and let me give you a quick update on what's going on in the IRTF. So the IRTF has 16 active research groups, and 14 of those have been meeting or are still meeting this week. I promoted the Sustain.RG and the Space.RG working group, research group from a proposed group to regular group this week. We have 2 platforms for raising the profile of the IETF and the academic research community. So this is to bring in new people from the research community to the IETF, get in new ideas and so on. So that's our workshop, ANRW, and our research prize, ANRP. And so the Applied Networking Research Workshop, ANRW, took place at this IETF on Monday. So we're doing this in cooperation with ACM, supported by Akamai. The chairs this time were Thomas Schmidt and Suresh Krishnan. And you can find all the papers and presentations on the IETF website. The Applied Networking Research Prize is to recognize recent and relevant academic publications, so that are relevant to the evolution of the internet. And so we are kind of having like a call for contributions. We select the best papers and then we invite those people here. So this is supported by ISOC, Comcast, and NBC Universal. And so this week we will have 2 of these prize winners here that will be presenting in IETF Open tomorrow at 14 p.m. And so that is Rumaiza Habib for her work on formalizing dependence on web infrastructure, and Diwan Xue for his work on fingerprinting deep packet inspection devices. So that's going to be tomorrow at 2 p.m. We are also offering diversity travel grants to bring in people who from different backgrounds who could find it difficult to attend our meetings. So at this meeting, we had the pleasure to host 4 travel grant winners again from different regions and different backgrounds. We have already made the selection for IETF 127, and we will open the call for IETF 128 later in November. So if you're interested in that, please keep your eyes open. And yeah, I'm happy to say that the IETF is recently doing quite a few interesting outreach activities. So we are going to other communities. So for example, the Sustain Research Group held a meeting last week in Passau in Germany that brought together internet researchers and people who are working on electrical grids. So figuring out, so how can both communities learn from each other, and also what are interesting research challenges for us, but also for them. And in December this year, we are holding another workshop on internet working for AI at ACM Connext. That's it for me. Thank you very much. And I hand over to Benno and Mankamana who will now come on board.
Kick off. Yeah. Yeah, you don't expect to see me here this time. Here I am. So I'm the NOMCOM chair of last year. And as it happened, there was a vacant position at the IETF LLC board. And that's still the duty of the NOMCOM of the previous year. So here I am, and brief report on where we are right now. So there we are. Introduce myself here. So there was an IETF LLC board position vacant, and that makes that we have 6 weeks to announce nomination. We have, of course, the interviews, we have the deliberations, the confirmation, and then the install of the new board member. And 6 weeks is not long, so that was, time goes fast. Where are we now? First, I want to thank the flexibility and instant availability of my old NOMCOM. There was some muscle memory, so things went fairly well and smooth. Thank you all my NOMCOM members. But again, where are we now? What's the status? So we had community feedback up to Tuesday. We had interviews this week with 2 nominees. This morning we had our deliberations and came to selection. We sent a letter to the ISG with our selected candidate, and there where we are now. So we sent a letter to the ISG, the confirming body, and the approval, the confirmation will arrive soon. That's it. So stay tuned, and we will soon hear more about the next IETF LLC board member. I might say, have to mention, this is a situation that the vacancy is less than 8 months, less than a year, I have to say. So what happens is that the old NOMCOM appoints or selects a candidate for the midterm, which is less than 1 year. And according to RFC 8713, it's also a selection for the next 3 years for that position. Okay. Any questions, comments, maybe later? I want to hand it over to Mankamana. Thank you.
Good evening. So when Roman started the meeting with such a high energy, I can't match his energy, but I'll go slow. So I'm Mankamana Mishra, and I'm NOMCOM chair for 2026-2027. And what exactly NOMCOM is responsible for is to select candidate out of nominees for leadership position. And we have to go through all the process of getting a nomination and getting the feedback, having interviews in the next IETF. So right now we have total position open. Thank you, Benor, for taking care of the top position. So I have one less thing to care of. So we have one position for IETF Trust, and then IAB has 6 positions, and IESG has 7 positions. One for application and real time, one for internet, ops is 1, and routing AD 2, security AD 1 position, web and internet 1 position. So we have already finished having the voting members. So we have done the 10 voting members before this IETF, and we have non-voting members where I am the chair and the past chair Beno. Then we have some liaisons from IAB, ISG, ISOC, and there are 2 of them missing, which we expect to finish soon. With respect to timeline, so NOMCOM has already seated this IETF. We had our kickoff meeting on Tuesday. And from now to IETF 127, we will start nomination from August 1st. And it will be going on till 14th of October. Looking at the next IETF, some of the people may not travel. So we will start virtual interview pretty early, which is around 20th of October. And we will have in-person interview during next IETF. Definitely, I would request everyone who is nominating themselves, if possible, please travel. It's always good to meet in person. And IETF 127, we are going to have deliberations, and we will have all the positions filled by IETF 128. Based on the experience of last IETF, last time, the Friday in the Montreal, we were able to, I would say, finish almost 80 to 85% of the work. So we are hoping that same thing will continue in the next IETF as well. And the detailed timeline is already, we have put in the data tracker wiki. Thank you.
Good evening. I don't see nearly enough popcorn in the room. Wendy Seltzer, I am here as president of the IETF Intellectual Property Management Corporation and chair of the IETF Trust. I am helped by this tremendous board of the IPMC, Victor and John. We're recently joined by Lars and Sean, and as it's my first time up here, I have to say thank you very much to Glenn Dean and Kristen Burden for their service previously on the IPMC board. IPMC manages the intellectual property, the copyrights and trademarks for IETF, and also the IANA intellectual property. And our primary duty is to safeguard that for the relevant stakeholder communities. And so we report to the community on licensing inquiries and legal actions. And I'm very pleased to report we have not had any legal actions or inquiries that required a detailed response. And we are still in the process of the transition from IETF Trust to the IP Management Corporation. And we have transferred all of the IETF related assets at the previous meeting, including future acquired assets. So don't worry if you're still making agreements that transfer your intellectual property to the IETF Trust. It is going to its proper home with the IPNC. The IANA IPR will be transferred after we complete final signatures on novation agreements to make sure that all of that is recognized by all of the parties who have interest in that IP. We are circulating a new TLP. That was the trust licensing provisions. It's now the technical licensing provisions. If you are interested in the wording of that, please look at TLP interest at IETF.org. And if you have comments on that, please share those. We are also planning a BCP update and have a draft linked from the slides. We have, as was mentioned, one seat for appointment by the NOMCOM, and if you're interested in that, the job description will be very similar to those previously, and if you have questions about that, feel free to come to our office hours tomorrow or to reach out to us through our websites and email as below. Thank you all for helping to keep our intellectual property in good hands and for continuing to produce valuable work that we can help to safeguard.
Hello, everyone. So welcome to IETF 126 Vienna from the IETF LLC. I hope you're enjoying this venue. It's a smaller venue than most, but I think many of us are finding that's lovely because we don't have to walk along huge corridors to find people, and certainly getting to meet people a lot better. So, talking first about IETF 126 Vienna, Roman and I will at some point finally get together about these things. But for now, if I could ask you please to put your hands together to thank Cisco for being our global host. And also, if we could thank our gold sponsors for diversity and inclusion, we have Akamai and Huawei. And then our many other sponsors, we have Comcast and ICANN, DENIC and Nominet, ICANN ZTE or ZTE, and then connectivity sponsor and local supporter is NextLayer. Thank you all very much. So these are the people who actually run the meeting. If you have any thought that I did it, no, these are the people who did it all. So the Secretariat, thank you all very much. And these are all the supporting technical teams, both the staff and the contractors and the volunteers. And we've particularly called out the companies that those volunteers are from who support them coming here. Thank you. And then the final clapping slide. Thank you all very much to our global hosts. It is with their ongoing support that we're able to afford these meetings and have such delights as popcorn. Thank you so much. So some new things for this meeting. First of all, you may have noticed the Secretariat are no longer wearing uniforms, and instead we have now the staff blue badges around so that you can recognize and identify people a little bit better. We have a new emergency plan in place as well, which is for a range of emergency situations, and everybody's been trained on it. And strangely enough, we had to use it on Friday when we had a very large thief stealing NOC and Secretariat consumables. Stealing something off the NOC is really a silly idea, so that was didn't last too long. There we go. And they were, by the way, they were a hotel guest and they had to be removed and everything. So that was good job we had the plan in place for that one. So once again, just remind you, we have a store and t-shirts and other things are available on the store for you to buy if you've missed a chance this time or need extra sizes or anything like that. So a little bit now about IETF LLC operations, just to update you on. So we've had some staffing changes and things with the Secretariat being insourced, and the Secretariat has now been restructured slightly into two specialist teams, the meetings team and the leadership support team. And so when you put the organisation together, this is the rough structure now of the organisation. We have a new data analyst as well, working on multiple projects and our community survey that just came out recently. And we're now getting much more strategic with annual planning sessions for each team with a follow-up community report, a blog post generally, for you to understand some more detail about what's going on with all of those teams and their plans. We've got some upcoming consultations. We're going to be doing one or two actually about backlogs and SLAs. So both the RPC and tools teams have significant backlogs of community work to process. So we're going to do community consultations on your expectations of service. What's done, what performance is expected. And if we find there's a mismatch between community expectations and the resources we have, then that may lead to conversations about that. We're also going to have a consultation on the remote rooms experiment. So some of you remember that we did an experiment in IETF 125 Shenzhen about remote rooms. Now, no remote rooms were requested for this meeting, but we are going to do a consultation on the whole concept before IETF 127 San Francisco, because we suspect that if it is then available, then some people will be interested in that. And we're also going to be putting out some venue assessment reports and consultations on new venues, new cities that have been assessed as suitable for an IETF meeting coming up. Overall, on that venue side of things, we'll be working much more on transparency and engagement with the community about how we choose venues and things going forwards. So this is the key findings from the IETF community survey that Roman mentioned earlier. The first one is a really very, very strong one. That so first of all, Roman mentioned we have roughly 52,000 email addresses subscribed to IETF mailing lists. We send this survey to every one of those addresses, except maybe, well, several hundred that have opted out of it on previous surveys. We had 1,480 valid responses after we do our data cleaning and stuff afterwards. And one of the first things we do is we ask people to self-classify how often they engage with the mailing list, and that gives us a measure of how much of a participant or how regular a participant they are. So the IETF continues to deliver on its core mission with perceived importance and an all-time high. So, you know, when we ask people, how well do you think the IETF does? Is it doing what it says it does? Very, very good results all around there. Then we have one of the bigger concerns, which is about the timeliness and process right the way through. So that's, you know, the decision-making within working groups, that is the publication side, it's all of these things. And it's a, you know, a persistent unresolved concern there. We are making meaningful signs of progress on gender diversity. And this is particularly because of the new intake, the younger people that are coming in. We have a much more diverse set of people coming in than the long-term participants. We understand that process complexity and reading volume are a hindrance for new participants. That's been well understood. And we have the whole day Sunday training program, and we're looking at more initiatives as well to help people come in and become a productive member of the IETF as soon as possible. Then we have the number 6 one. We still have people feeling that the balancing this corporate extensive representation with the core principle of individual contribution is a challenge. And it's a grey area for many people about how that sits. And then finally, we, for the very first time, had an open-ended question. What else do you think on the end of the survey? We tried to avoid it before because I didn't want to read 1,480 responses. And then along came Claude. So we got, you know, Claude to read 1,480 responses for us. We only actually had 240 responses, so it was much easier than expected. And amongst, then within that, within a smaller group within that of regular participants, we had some governance and inclusion concerns surfaced. So it's a very detailed report. It's very well worth reading. It's very useful. And if you have further questions from it, please let us know, because we're always happy to try to dig into the data more. And we also can make that data available to researchers if we, can do a proper research agreement around it. So we have that there as well. Right, so a little bit about future meetings now. Next, of course, we have IETF 127 San Francisco. Registration is open. Please register now. Please book your flights. Please let's see you in person. That would be lovely. Then, if you haven't seen it, we have now announced IETF 128 next March will be in Kuala Lumpur. It will be in the Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre. Thank you. One person said to me, yay, proper Asia for that one, which is great. So very pleased with that one. Right, these are then the future meeting locations and venues. So the next 4 are all booked. We have San Francisco, then we have Kuala Lumpur, then we have Berlin, and then after that, Vancouver. And we're now starting to work on the next set going forwards. It did take a long time to book Kuala Lumpur. I'm sorry about that. It was, quite late. Dealing with convention centres is always very difficult. It takes it takes a very long time of backwards and forwards around contracts and liability and things. Every convention centre we've ever come across wants us to take liability for absolutely everything and pay them extraordinary amounts in advance and these things. And it's always a painful process to go through. I'm not quite sure how other people work with convention centres, but that's the way forward. So that's it. If you have any, thoughts or views about locations, venues, this venue, how it's working for you, please let us know. I mean, we will have the survey at the end of the meeting. As many of you as possible, please fill that out. That'd be great. But we're particularly interested about the size of venue. This is a smaller venue. We were worried about the capacity. The capacity is 1350, and we have got 1250 roughly registered, maybe 1100 on site at any one time. But for many people, the feedback I've heard from most people is that this is working much better than a larger venue. And maybe we ought to try more regularly to find smaller venues and do this. So, all right, that's just the thing to take forward. So thank you very much for your time, everyone. Over to Miriam.
There you go. Yes, my name is Miriam Kühne. I'm the chair of the LLC board. We have one other board member here, that's Roman. Unfortunately, George and Gonzalo couldn't be here this time. And as you heard from Benno, we have one vacant position. And yeah, you heard the update of that. Luckily, Roman has agreed to take over the treasurer role since our treasurer resigned. So we're happy with that. And I would really like to thank Shauna Turner also here for her for the work that she's put into on the board since she started. As usual, just an overview here of our financial situation. This is an update from April. We're always a little bit not behind, but this is how the statements work. But you can see the monthly financial statements on the website. So the May statement is already up there, and the board will be approving the next ones coming up. I'm not going to go through the details here. Also on the next slide, you'll see some some notes, some annotations there for the numbers. If you want to go through them, please feel free. If you have any questions, we're here. Jay and also the financial officers here. Then I would like to give you a quick update of what the board is working on and busy with, in addition to all the operational work that Jay has described. We had a board retreat that we have usually once a year. This one was in Amsterdam in April, and we've done a lot of work there, and I published a blog post about this after the retreat, and we're kind of busy following up on all the action items and all the decisions and all the future activities we want to work on. We already have agreed on a new, or have reviewed our risk register and the accompanying risk policy that describes the risk register, and that's already updated and on the website. We're also updating our investment policy, which is kind of a healthy thing to do ever so often. So we're working on that. And also our multi-year strategy is up for review. So we're working on that at the moment. Jay has already mentioned the remote room. So we've been talking about this also on the board, and we carefully read the review, the report of the last one. So we're looking forward to the consultation there and how you would like to go forward with that. And I started, and I heard kind of, people want to find out a bit more of what the LLC is doing, and also what's happening on the board, what the board members are thinking about, what decisions we made. And so we started publishing a report just before this meeting. I sent out the first one, and I would like to continue to do this, maybe roughly on a monthly basis. See it sometimes, maybe in the summer it won't work, but I'd be curious also to hear if that's something you find useful, and to kind of pulling together also the other reports, that Jay and the other teams are sending out, like the RPC and the tools team, and some other activities that are going on within the LLC, but maybe they're not all published in the same place. And so I thought it might be useful to do that and send that out. A bit similar to maybe the IAB and the ISG report. So we want to do that also for the LLC. And we had, was not here on the slide, but we had also now this meeting again, some office hours yesterday, Monday and Tuesday. Roman and I were there just to see if there's any feedback, any questions you might have for the board. We might repeat this, from time to time, see if there's interest, any topics you want to bring up with a bit more time, rather than here in the plenary. And that's pretty much all I had to say. Just here are, as usual, the times of our board meetings. There also parts of it are open to the public. So we usually have a number of observers there. Here are the dates. We're going to skip the one in August, but then we're back in September and October. And you'll always find the minutes of the meetings, and also on the website. And so you're welcome to join as observer. And then on the last slide, just a bunch of links and how you can contact us and reach us in different teams, the board only, board with Jay, and also the links to all the information that I mentioned, all the policies, financial statements, minutes, and so forth. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Next up, we're going to start the community, collecting any of the community feedback with the open mics from the leadership body. So first up, we are going to have the IAB. So if you're on the IB, please come to the stage.
Thank you. Settled. Yingzhen, why don't we start with you?
Yingzhen Qu, IAB.
Dirk Kutscher, IETF Chair.
Yaroslav Rosomachov, IAB.
Roman Danilio, IETF Chair.
Matthew Bocci, IAB.
Suresh Krishnan, IAB.
Dhruv Todi, IAB Chair.
Alvaro Ratana, IAB.
Warren Kumari, IAB.
Jason Livingood, IAB.
Ali Began, IAB.
Nick Sullivan, IAB.
Jana Iyengar, IAB.
And the mic lines are open. Okay, we have one.
Good evening. This is Elliot. I can't let you guys get away without at least one comment at the mic. I am the independent submissions editor, and I just want to bring to the community's attention that I will generally keep drafts up to date in the tracker if people want to follow what's going on with independent submissions. one of us, there's a group of independent submissions. They're now being sent off to the IESG for 5742 review. These are the CNSA2 crypto profile documents. You can find them in the tracker by searching on CNSA2. I solicit comments on these and any other drafts. It's not too late to comment on these. I'm always looking for reviews, and please feel free to send me any comments or questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Elliot. Thanks for your service. Any other questions for the IAB? Going once, going twice. Yay!
Next up, I invite the ISG. I think that one's mine. No, you're good. You're good.
Load balance.
Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to sit or not. That's what's happening. Corey, why don't you get us started with introductions?
Gori Fairhurst, WIT AD.
Chris Anasio, Security AD.
Charles Eckel, Art AD.
Erik Wijk, Int AD.
Mahesh Ranai, Ops AD.
Roman Danilou, Gen and Chair.
Dhruv Todi, IB Chair.
Gunther van der Velde, Routing AD.
Ketan Talaulikar, Routing AD.
Mohamed Boukader, Ops AD.
Jim Guichard, Routing AD.
Deb Cooley, Sec AD. Isn't that routing?
Tommy Jensen, Int AD.
Mike Bishop, with AD.
Andy Newton, Art AD.
Okay, the mic line is open. I see some queued up. So Wes, I see you as first.
Thank you. So I'm Wes Hardiker. I've been coming here for a while to these IETF things. And one thing I've noticed that there's rather large waves of pleasant times and times with a little bit of discontent where I don't know if you've noticed, we don't always get along. There are times we're in disagreement with each other. There are times where we're in disagreement with the chairs. There's times that we disagree with the ADs. And so I come here with a simple message. So, first off, I hate all of your discusses. But the reality is that we all come here to make the internet a better place. And what we often forget is that we each have a different vision of what better looks like. And so we have different opinions, we have different priorities, and we get in fights, but we're all here to make the internet better, more resilient, more secure, more robust, use all the fancy buzzwords that you want to use. We all have that goal. And so my message tonight is simple, that when we get in large disagreements and when we start fighting with each other and when we start picking on people in unfair ways, it's not fair. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for your service. Thanks for putting up with us. Thanks for the time and devotion that you have. Thanks for making the internet better. And thank you even for the discusses you put on my document, because I know you are trying to make the internet a better place. And I would say I'm sorry, but hopefully I don't have to. Other people should. So thank you for all of the people that don't say that they're sorry. Thank you.
And I will say, I don't think any of us enjoy putting discussions on documents. Well, okay, some past IETF chairs may, but.
Next up, Martin.
Yeah, thank you. I have 3 questions. I don't know how you want to receive these things, but really this is requests for you. The first one relates to the matter that's been happening in TLS. I think there's been some truly disgraceful behavior involved in that process, and the chairs have done, I think, the best they can with a terrible situation. I thank the chairs for that work, but I think 2 things are true out the other end of this. I personally like the outcome that the chairs have ruled, but I also don't think that this is consensus. And I realize that we don't have a process for dealing with situations like this very well. And I think it is the responsibility of the ISG to deal with the situation and give our working group chairs better tools to deal with these terrible situations where we have this sort of essentially a denial of service attack on the organization. So that's one. The second one is the flood of, I'm going to be frank about this, AI slop that we're seeing in particularly dispatch and a large number of working groups. This institution has, for a very long time, relied on certain defensive measures to protect itself from having to deal with work that consumes time and is ultimately not productive. I would like to ask the ISG to do something more substantive about that, because those defenses that we had are no longer adequate to the task. And the third one is a bit of a criticism, somewhat related to that last one. I see we have, I think, approximately 4 AI-related BOFs this week, 3 of which have already run, I think, somewhat unsuccessfully. I feel that the ISG scheduled those BOFs far too early. The work was not mature enough. And I would like to see a little higher bar used to filter work like that so that we don't spend enormous amounts of the community's time on work that is ultimately ill-formed and not quite ready for the community at large. Thank you.
Thanks for those 3 comments. I'm going to start kind of responding to the 3 backwards. So on the observation on the IETF, on the AI-related BOFs that kind of happened, the ISG, with help of the IAB, certainly deliberated on those topics, and we can never predict what the future outcome is of those BOFs, but in each of those cases, we felt that there was at least sufficient community conversation to take it out of the forums in which it was happening, in side meetings and other places, and give it a structured place to discuss with the entire community where we can get the consensus feedback whether these kinds of conversations can continue. Anyone else want to add on number 3? Okay, working.
Can I throw one thing in? And I think Tommy wanted to as well. I will also note that a successful BOF is not necessarily one that decides to form a working group and do work. A successful BOF, it is still a successful outcome to decide we have more questions that we need to answer before we move forward. That's not necessarily a failure.
And on that note, this was definitely, these were not easy decisions, and it was something we were attempting to balance in terms of what will happen if we give a better venue for discussion, because there was a lot of criticism and a ton of side meetings going on that indicated there was something that needed to be broken out. And if the outcome is that it all comes out and it turns out no actionable work is there, well, now we know. Yeah.
Okay, then addressing the middle one, which of course is the easiest of them all, is AI and kind of the slop coming. Listen, we got to acknowledge kind of outright that AI is already changing how we do the standards process, and it's going to change it in ways we can't even imagine. It's going to change how the drafts are written, how the drafts are reviewed. It's changing already how the drafts are. I shouldn't say future tense. It's happening now, and it's going to happen in the future. It changes the whole dynamic on running code when I can mint a lot of code real quick. It'll change how we interact, and is changing how we're interacting on mailing lists and just how the meetings run. And then lastly, it also is impacting the consensus kind of process. The ISG is hearing from at the participant level, at the directorate review level, and from working group chairs that what we have is inadequate and we need to sort some of these things out. Equally, as the most recent version was the working group chairs lunch, we heard kind of practical, I loathe to say best common practices, but practices around how we can exploit AI in a positive way to help the standards process. We need to be considering both, and the ISG realizes that we have probably not facilitated that conversation enough, and it kind of in some of our prep meetings coming into this, we kind of recognize that. So in the coming month, we're going to kind of scrum to figure out how we can create a forum. I mean, the easy answer is let's make a mailing list, but we feel we need to do more than that. We need to create some kind of facilitated structure to get community input and kind of community decision-making to come up with either the practices, the norms. We don't really kind of understand what the shape of that is going to be, but we want to make sure we have a forum, we bring the community in, and we want to think a little bit about that. If folks have ideas on how to convene kind of such a forum, and we're not sure what comes out of that, like what does a practice look like? Is it an RFC? Is it more? Is it kind of less? Kind of what exactly is it? But we realize we need to have a structure to think about both how to harness AI, kind of accelerate where those are, codify that, make that broadly aware, and equally it's impacting negatively the standards process. So how do we intervene as a result of that? Okay.
Thanks, Roman. That's great.
Okay. And then the first one, I wrote down better tools. I think it was for appeal processing, moderation. Did I have that right? No, for better tools for TLS.
I don't want to see a repeat of the TLS process. The TLS process was a disaster, and obviously the chairs did the best with the tools they had, right, but they were obviously, those tools were inadequate to the task.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I think certainly one of the things we're going to get, and hopefully there are, I think, many dimensions to kind of the TLS I wouldn't begin to kind of unpack. The one I think I have an easy answer for is there are some observations around what's happening around code of conduct. When we will have the new procedures created by the new moderator team for that comes from RFC 9945, I believe minimally there will be some new tools there. At Gen Dispatch, we saw an inkling of maybe we need to be talking more about how we do assessment on consensus, so it's more broadly kind of appreciated, so we have repeatable practices. I could also see that would be a direction kind of in the future. I don't think that there's one particular silver bullet approach for what's per se happening in TLS, but given that we got 5 appeals from just the last time we met coming from that working group and got a few more before that, I think your ISG definitely appreciates, that help is needed. Anyone else want to add to that?
So I will agree. There's work to be done, and the chairs and I and the rest of the ISG will work on this. It's definitely, you're definitely correct. It is definitely out of control, and it definitely needs to be changed.
Okay, we'll take the next speaker. Arnaud.
Yes, hi, Arnaud, with no affiliation. Some people will be happy to know that this is probably my last IETF meeting. So a few things here. First of all, I completely sympathize with the situation that you are facing on the TLS group. That I have no words. I have my full support and help for what Deb had to suffer. I just could not imagine this could happen. But there is one thing regarding the code of conduct is that as SG17 chair, I had to revoke my first member of a member state. Person that, by the way, is causing you problems here as well, but I succeeded. Right? So my point is that if you succeed to change that, you are going to have a better life, and I can only encourage you to go in this direction because all of us basically celebrated that this person left. Okay, so that's serious. It was something that happened. I can just encourage you on that. The second point on the tooling, and Agentic AI is there as tooling for us to help creating or modifying and so on. I must say it's unbelievable what you can do with it. So on my side, I'm encouraging everybody. We do a battle of sharing between ourselves because that's just something that needs to happen. We cannot stop it. Can we graduate it? I don't know. Can we make it under good practices? I don't know, but we are exploring. Let's share our best practice there. Finally, on the agentic AI sessions, I am exactly no surprise on the opposite point as Martin. I appreciate that the ISG made and proposed a number of both on agentic AI. I think it is necessary. We have a race against something that is taking us too fast. And I'm happily surprised with some of the discussions. I'm less happily surprised to see some of the outcome. I would really have liked to see Dawn to be accepted. In fact, I am on the opposite side, that I would encourage the ISG to be more prescriptive. I'm looking at Eric here, if possible, because you are not alone. So I see two things here that do not work for me. One is the ossification of certain teams on their stuff, because they have done that for 30 or 20 years with no way to get even a discussion about that. The second thing is I see an inward looking of this community completely ignoring what's happening outside of IETF. I'm glad to see Peter is here for 3GPP, that I'm here for IG17, and some of you actually recognize that. But it's going so fast. I mean, you can't just stay there. Some of you are going to leave here because they are not finding the place to develop their work and they need it. So I can only encourage you to be more prescriptive, accelerate, because the clock is ticking. And I will stop at that. Thank you.
Thanks for the reminder on the timer. And just to be concrete on the idea of sharing best practices on AI and standards organization, that's an excellent idea. For folks interested in that topic, there'll be the recording from the working group chair session where a particular implementation of how we use AI to help in the standards process was introduced. And I think at the RASWRG, which I think is happening later this week, someone will correct me. I believe there's a couple of presentations on that, so that material will be available. Excellent. Next up, John, remotely.
Two things that I'll try to be brief. The first is that I may have missed it because I was unfortunately called away within brief urgency at what may be the critical time. But I believe that we should be getting at least a report of the number of inquiries the Ombuds team is getting in an intermediate gap, and I hope for the same thing with the moderation team when that comes around and actually starts dealing with questions. It's important information for the community to have in terms of how much the activity level is there. Second, and probably more important and immediate, this is not a complaint about any particular set of discussed votes or comment or ISG comments, but we've had a micro controversy since the time RFC 2119 was adopted as to whether the use of the term should or should not in a document needs to come along with a explanation of what the exception cases are. And I have consistently been on the side of those who feel like there should be such an explanation, but it has never been a requirement. And I'm concerned if it's not a requirement when the ISG comes along and lists a number of places where the document doesn't do that. So this is a request the ISG clarify what they think is the situation there, and if necessary, initiates a update to BCP 14, which clarifies what the rules are about the use of should and should not, so we're consistent across the board, and that working groups don't get, to use a term West might object to, ambushed by these questions or comments or complaints. And again, not a complaint about any particular issue, but we've gotten ourselves into a situation where there's a lack of clarity there, and we'd be much better off having that clarity at the time working groups are producing documents rather than showing up at ISG voting. Thank you.
Thanks, John. I want to make sure I understood. I believe your first question was around you want more transparency on the processing of cases by the Ombuds team and the mod team. And assuming that's the case, the Ombuds numbers are published in the in my chair report at every meeting. So if you check this meeting as report, you'll find the numbers in there. The last meeting, so it started 2 meetings ago, so you'll find them going back at least to 2 meetings. And the mod team isn't up yet.
I didn't notice it there. If it's there, I apologize for the comment.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, the Ombuds team kind of started rolling those out, so those numbers are now available. On the idea of modifying the BCP on keyword draft, the ISG is not working on personally minting a draft. We would welcome certainly someone from the community giving us a starting point and figuring out pathfinding where we should go.
Roman, I want to also add that the ISG has a statement on BCP 14 language.
Yes, if you are not aware of that statement, yeah, certainly there is also that.
I am aware of the statement, but it expresses a preference as I read it, a preference, not a rule. And again, if we're going to have large numbers of comments on a draft at last call time, we really, in my personal, not very humble opinion, need rule and clarity about that, not an ISG statement alone.
John, can I also point out that a comment is not blocking? It's a suggestion from the AD, but you don't have to implement it. So we can comment on that.
With regard to the should problem, there's a funny issue, which is that working groups are generally expected to respond to those comments rather than ignoring them, even though they may not be binding. And for one of these should cases, it creates a situation in which choice number 1 is to modify the document to put in that explanation, and choice number 2 is to work up that explanation so it can be used as a response to the ISG member in order to move the document forward. So again, we're in a little bit of we're in a slightly more complicated situation here than I think is generally understood, and I think it'd be worthwhile to clarify it. Again, no objections about a particular document. I'm happy that you people are doing your job, but this is a loose end. And the fact that it's been a loose end for 30 years doesn't tell very much.
So, John, I think I still owe you a reply to your email you sent me 1 week or 2, but I'm quite busy, as you can imagine, with these IETF meetings. Regarding an update to BCP 14, honestly, I will be the first one to upload it because it forces us as an ISG evaluation to be sure that RSC 2119 is really enforced. I agree it's a guidance, and I have sometimes worked with the authors and the working group about the uppercase should or the uppercase should not and the equivalent, because that's quite often, most of the time, to find very easily a crystal clear and crisp specification about what they should. You can quite often replace them by must because people are afraid. And what you can do quite often, you get must, unless, and other construct like this. I see some people laughing, it takes time, but you can do it. And I'm pretty sure we will manage it through it on the specific draft, John. And
again, on the specific draft, I'm not commenting. I agree with Wes. I'm glad all of you are doing your jobs. And I understand everybody is stretched too thin, including both you and me. But as to the rest of your comment, we're in complete agreement. The only thing I'm raising now is that this stuff ought to be sufficiently clarified that we don't have to iterate on it in these kinds of ways, and that authors and working groups are not surprised when these come across as complaints at last call rather than very clear guidance much earlier. So I think we're in complete agreement.
I think we agree.
Very good. Thanks, John. Rich, you're up next.
Hi, Rich Sauls. Of the 6 appeals that came through this past year, I think 4 of them had the non-conformant language that the IESG put out a statement saying is disruptive. And then they all had, oh, but in the interest of having an appeal channel, we're going to ignore it or let it through. As a member of the community, please stop doing that. the person who does these is not learning the lesson that you have to behave according to the civil standards of the IETF. And so the next time, just send it back, please.
We are very much sensitive to the dynamic you are describing, and for this reason, we structured the guidance that would allow two levels below us to do that. But as an open standards organization, we need a defined appeal path, and we're balancing really the equity of ensuring that there always is an aperture for an appeal with what's happening in the rest of the organization. I appreciate the tension that is created.
But do you really think that putting an ineffective noise paragraphs that has completely annoyed the rest of the community is a valid way to keep the appeal path open?
All I can say is we are trying our best to kind of manage the consistency of the process with the efficiency of what's happening. Anyone else? Okay, in that case, Tim, you're up next.
Hi there, Tim Chown. A couple of points, comments, questions. Drawing on what Jay actually posted about the survey, and I think the second thing I'm going to say is for you guys, maybe the first one is more general. First one is about diversity. I've not been for about 5 meetings, and Jay was saying from the survey, it seems that progress is being made in diversity, but I see in the IAB and the ISG, there are certain visible dimensions to diversity, but there's one that's clearly not there. There's only one woman on, I think, on both the IAB and the ISG that we've seen today, for example. I don't know whether you want to make any comment on that and whether you feel, obviously everyone I'm sure here is very capable of what they're doing, but do we want to, or what do you think we can do to improve that? The second one is the comment in the survey about the speed with which the IETF moves, which I assume is too slow rather than too fast. What do you think we can do differently? What can you guys as ADs do differently? What can we as working group chairs and participants do differently? Are there things that we're learning maybe early from RASP RG that we can do differently? Oh well. What can we do differently? I would like to think there's something we can do. We seem to quite often just work in like 3 huge waves of effort each year as the draft deadlines come in for each meeting. Should we be meeting more remotely? Should we have more interims? But then that's effort on the chairs, on the ADs. What do you think? Is there something we could do to make things progress faster?
Okay, so taking the first question, as Jay kind of noted, that what we're seeing in the new participant kind of pipeline is very different than the more durable kind of version of that. So we believe that some of the investments we made have in fact improved the diversity, pushing into the pipeline. Your observation about the mismatch of the pipeline coming in and the leadership bodies is one that, yes, one does not, even if one changes the composition of what's injected in the pipeline, it takes some time to work its way kind of through the process. So one of the ways that I know I've talked about at this plenary meeting was one of the stepping stones to leadership positions is having the intermediate leadership positions. And the one we were focused on, the axis we were focused on was working group chairs. Okay. So one of the very conscious decisions that was made is in the cadre, I want to say, if you, I don't have the numbers necessarily at the tip of my tongue, probably plenary 122, 123. The ballpark numbers for the working group chair population is something like 275 or kind of 300. Some people have 1 appointment, some have 2. Each group has at least 2 at this point. The fraction kind of has 3. So what we focused on is reducing the number of instances where the same individual has many different working group chair appointments, but the crucial thing to provide more experience in kind of leadership, to ladder up potentially to these other leadership bodies, because the community seems to feel that there's a tight link, is to do the 1+1, which is you take one experienced chair and then you have someone that's never had that role, and this gives you a larger cadre of future working group chairs, but also gives you more people in a larger pool to respond to that. And I believe when we pulled those numbers last, when we were very consistent in implementing that policy, when I briefed that, I think a smidge under 50% was the nature of that appointment, and we were able to find.
I would encourage you to report on that in the next plenary, maybe just to give some of those figures, give some of the evidence there, just to encourage us all.
Okay, very good. I mean, I periodically report on that. We can certainly dig those numbers up again. And I swear it's either the 21 or 22 plenary has those numbers from in-flight. And then you asked about the speed at which the IETF is operating. I think that there are a number of kind of dimensions to that. The one that the ISG is not going to directly kind of talk about, but Jay talked about is there's many parts of that pipeline. There's the RPC pipeline, and there's going to be a community consultation to kind of explore all that. There's going to be deeper kind of exploration about what makes kind of sense in the pipeline. If you're asking what can the ISG do to make everything before that go faster, I think there's a lot of different ways to kind of approach that. One of the ones that we saw that we just got dual-sided community feedback was cherry picking things out of the side meetings and things that we were seeing and trying to promote them to accelerate things to either make a decision that we shouldn't be in this business or we're not, but throwing a big community kind of process. Kind of one example that's not at all necessarily representative of everything that's happening. Mixed feedback kind of on that. I don't know if I have a cogent, quick answer to how to make everything kind of go faster inside inside the working groups. And I would look to my other ADs about what are the tactical things that we should be doing to kind of make it better, and certainly kind of community feedback on that.
The amount of time the ADs put into it is much more than me as a working group chair or me when I was a participant. We could dive in and out very easily, but you guys, it's constant. It's you've got your 2 weekly meetings, you've got everything else. You need help with reviews, etc., etc. It's thank you for doing what you do, but is there anything we can do better? Any way we can help you or you help us? I think is the question.
Other ADs want to comment? Keaton.
Yeah. So this may not be representative of entire IETF and maybe of some working group that I involved with. One of the things which would help is really people reviewing, contributing to not just their own work but other work. Sometimes we see this thing where that's not happening, and that can slow down the progression of work. So that's one observation that I would like to share.
I don't want to necessarily clip this question kind of short. I mean, let's please kind of answer if you have a position, but I observe a deep queue, and so we have to keep moving.
So just quickly, when I was looking at this for my area, after reading those verbose feedback, what I found as I tore it apart is that I was the biggest blocker. And so one of the things, just as a public, we're all in this together, right? So I'm publicly saying that's part of what I've been doing is having accelerated review on my part such that it's all there beforehand, because I was the AD a couple of times where a discuss came in the day before a telechat, and that's not cool. And I'm acknowledging that. Everyone in this room is volunteering almost always, their free time, right? So I'm with you. There's not one, it's just one bit at a time.
And as to diversity, I would just say, as I was on the NomCom last year as the ISG liaison, and NomCom can only pick from the people who are nominated and who accept the nominations. If you are NomCom eligible, please consider serving. If you are nominated, please consider accepting the role and doing the interview, even if you don't think you'll get picked. I didn't think I'd get picked, and here I am. And please consider it. Give NomCom options, because if NomCom's choices for a given position are 3 white men, you're going to get a white man in the role.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Rohan.
Hi, Rowan May. I'm not sure that whether this is for the LLC or for you guys or both or some combination.
We'll let you know.
But I figured. Looking forward to booking my flights to San Francisco soon. I recall a certain San Francisco IETF meeting that was right before the start of the Iraq War, and there were protests 2 blocks from the IETF hotel, which turned out to be mostly okay for everybody involved. It certainly wasn't a dangerous situation. The next IETF is scheduled 11 days after the date of a scheduled U.S. election. What is the community's mitigation plan if norms are much further eroded after that date.
So I'm going to be respectful to the question. We'll answer that during the LLC time.
Sure.
Ecker.
It's been quite a while, but I wanted to follow up on Martin Thompson's comments about AI here. So, on AI generated input, I agree our defenses are proving inadequate. I know there's been a lot of discussion about AI generated drafts and disclosure, but I'm actually much more concerned about AI generated mailing list traffic. The harm here is just like a huge amount of traffic that is kind of superficially responsive, but actually non-responsive. You just need to wade through. If I send 10 lines and I get back 50 because someone just typed that into Claude, that's not really a sustainable situation. So I know that Martin's observed that authorship means you take responsibility for your text, and that's just not consistent with people behaving that way. I do think we need some new norms here, and we're going to need the chairs to take a much more active role in enforcing those norms when it looks like people are just spitting out, the LLM output. I'm not saying you shouldn't be using LLM, but I'm saying, if you're the third person to write to have a message that says, here's the theme, maybe you should be asking, whether you're actually, generating your own text or just letting Claude think for you. Secondarily, on the topic of AI buffs, I share Martin's concern about the number and quality of these AI buffs. There's plainly a huge amount of interest in this topic, and for good reason. But it's also a topic where we have a limited amount of historical involvement and expertise, and that leaves us in a weak position to evaluate which work is real and which work is, as noted above, generate a process that doesn't really reflect widespread support, but generate something else. This has been an issue both in terms of BOFs and in terms of dispatch. We had a dispatch interim where basically everything just got punted because it was all kind of stuff that just was not going anywhere. And that's not a great situation. We burn a lot of meeting time to tell people no. So I think what is required here is some strong leadership, and the leadership to feel comfortable saying, I understand you want to do this, but it's not ready, and you're not going to succeed, and you got to come back with something better. I know it's not a pleasant situation to be in as an AD, but it's something the ADs and the chairs really need to do. And I think that, at least from my perspective, the community, they would have community support for, make those decisions. So I would encourage the chairs and the ADs to feel empowered to, exercise their technical judgment, which is why they were appointed as positions rather than just turning the crank.
Understood. Thanks for that feedback. On the first point. Okay, no feedback this time. On that first point, Ecker, definitely the interaction on the mailing list is part of what the ISG has definitely heard from. We've heard it from the working group chairs. We've heard it from different kind of director kind of reviewers, or how the back and forth definitely goes. And in addition to identifying mitigations for that and with those associated norms, that would have to feed back to some kind of training or kind of summarization component. So broadly, working group chairs understood they have the resources they need to when they encounter those situations. On the idea of ADs taking more responsibility and ownership for how the BOFs are kind of selected and doing their due diligence, I think it's a subjective call. I mean, your feedback is taken, unless.
And there's a responsibility for one of the AI BOF. I always prefer to err somehow on allowing a BOF, even if I'm not fully convinced to run it, rather than closing a BOF that could have been run correctly. It's me. Now, on the specific BOF, right, on the down BOF, of course, nothing is set in stone. The charter that's been discussed will not be the charter that will be going. As you know, the process is to get the community involved there. So it's really up to people in this room and outside to work with the down chair to make a good charter and possibly create the working group.
For the record, I think that BOF was prematurely held. I think the BOF was not well organized and was prematurely held. So just you of course have to make your own decision, but I'm just saying that that's one of the things we're talking about.
Okay, thanks.
Fair enough.
Eric
Nygren. I guess continuing the AI topic theme, as powerful as a tool as it is, are there areas where we need to react more quickly from the IETF to in a defensive measure? In particular, one area where is IANA code points, where there are code point registries where the kind of past things of expert review might have, or first come, first served, were fine when humans were writing drafts, but now as we start having AI generated drafts, the rate at which code point usage could go up, maybe go up orders of magnitude. Is that something where the ISG is looking at kind of giving out guidance to expert reviewers in the short term so that we can kind of get ahead of this?
To my knowledge, IANA is kind of tracking, kind of in broad kind of strokes, what's kind of going through the pipeline to include. They regularly discuss to us some of their approaches, even for first come first serve, which could potentially have some of those problems even before the age of AI. In no way am I suggesting that tomorrow this may not appear. From the information we have now, this is at least right now not a phenomenology. Not that we shouldn't consider it and shouldn't have some telemetry or oversight that would give us insight if and when that occurs, and we would hopefully have a mitigation lined up when that's happening. So yes, I think that goes on to the larger list of considerations when we come up with the norms in this future forum. Good point. Thanks.
Bron, I'm over here. Is this live? Yes.
It is.
I'll just lift it up so I can speak. I have a couple of things that are both around norms as well. One of which is possibly a cultural change a little bit for the IETF that I think we need to make, which is identifying a human being. That in the past it was you had to have a human being in order to get text into things. It's much easier for non-human beings to send things now, and requiring that there be an actual human being accountable for everything sent to the IETF, I think is going to become really important, and we should get ahead of that. And then following on from that is requiring that accountable human being to be in the loop. And in my newfound role on the moderation team, I think it's going to be very important for us to be able to identify that a human has taken themselves out of the loop and blocked them from interacting with the IETF. And there might be some rate limiting requirements we need to build right through our processes to catch that before it goes crazy and cut those loops, because otherwise we're just one accident away from everything being wiped pretty fast. And so, yeah, those two things, identifying a specific human being who takes accountability and having the norms be that that human being remains in the loop and doesn't automate anything that they don't check. Thank you.
Understood. Will be a critical consideration in the future. Oh, please.
So it's come up enough times that I'll just quickly point out that there is an action item that a few of us are working on to write such guidance. You're not hearing specifics from us because it doesn't exist yet. And so we want to speak with one voice. So to everyone that's underlying, and the chat, I'm sure I can't see, that is something that we are exploring because we share that. To the point of real humans, note that we can use what we already require, which is that someone posts with a real name for definitions of real that we then need to be able to hold accountable. And that is something that we are considering.
So I just wanted to answer that. I saw something that looked like it could be not a real human being fairly recently that had a name and a domain that someone had created for it, but it was a sock puppet. Sock puppets have always been a problem, but we have a sock making machine now.
Jim.
Hello. Speaking of AI, you've all heard of AI, right? I have a question that I'd like to leave you with as you think about how you're going to better manage work that's going on here and use of facilities and services. So 3 weeks ago, it really was 3 weeks ago, for the first time, I actually had a thought, a need that I would want to actually schedule a side meeting. I thought it was great years ago when we first added side meetings and we added a room, and then over time that became 2 rooms. Then we added this nice scheduling tool. Used to be a sign-up sheet up on the front of the board and all that. I think all of that's great. But 3 weeks ago, when I was thinking I wanted a meeting for my working group, and we had a particular technical topic that I knew we wanted to take outside the meeting. So I went to the page and I figured, oh, let me check this out. How do you schedule meetings? What does this look like? And I saw a few meetings scheduled there. So then I started to look and pick, okay, so let me pick some slots that are going to work for me so I can offer to this group of people. And then I went back to the page and half the meeting rooms were gone. Half the meeting slots were gone. And then I'm just sitting there watching the page and the slots are just filling up. I mean, this was 3 weeks ago. The meeting hasn't even started yet and the slots were gone. And you look and most of these meeting slots are related to AI things, okay? So my question to you really is, I thought that we talk about the amount of AI stuff that's here, and it's interesting. We can certainly debate whether or not the ISG made good choices in the BOFs that were chosen. But more importantly, people who were not selected for a BOF, well, they've got it out here. what we have is a second IETF that's forming, and they're using the side meeting rooms to do it. And they're just having all the discussions they want to have that they can't otherwise get announced and available in a formal way. So my question for consideration here is, our side meetings, what is the purpose of those rooms? I guess I had my own personal expectation that the purpose of those rooms was for actual IETF work that's going on that needs an opportunity to discuss something and get together. I mean, maybe that's a bridge too far, I don't know. But I'm asking for some consideration as you think about managing the work and use of facilities. Should we think about whether or not those meeting rooms should have some kind of priority? You know, should they be for actual working groups, actual work that's going on? Or, I mean, they basically have been taken over. You know, I mean, they're just not available for IETF work. That's the observation that I make. And I ask you to think about that as you think about managing work. Is there something that we can do there in terms of managing the priority of where those side meeting rooms go to? I had to find a different way to get the meeting happen that I needed. Could not use a side meeting. I mean, I managed it, but there you go. Thanks.
The ISG is intimately aware of the continued evolution of side meetings. In recent years, the idea that it is just extra space for working groups to have more organic, non-working, low-level kind of conversations. It has not been like that for some time. We have been watching and trying to find the right balance between this area where all we're trying to do is provide a room, which turned into proponents saying, well, we need comms, then we need kind of this, and it became more formal and formal. And we are trying to kind of find the right balance that this is officially not working group space. This is not research kind of group space. So we have actually analyze the larger bucket of what's happening. And there certainly is what is, I think, the more historical understanding, but we also have proto-research groups kind of doing things. We also have a lot of what we would summarize as pre-BOF storming and norming of ideas. And sometimes it does manifest into a BOF. I think several of the BOFs we convene have met a number of kind of times as well. And then we also have mini conferences that people are using the space for, kind of in there to recurrently talk about things that will not ultimately make its way into the standards or the research process as far as we can tell. So that's really to convey we are not blind to the dynamics that are happening. What is different actually about this meeting is that, to my knowledge, this is the first time that we actually ran out of side meeting slots. In previous meetings, you may not have gotten your preferred slot, but there was a slot always available. And I think that's new information for us, that we have reached the point where we have kind of run out of slots. The tension that for the ISG is the more it puts its finger into this unofficial thing that we are not managed, the more ultimate responsibility we have. And if the signal from the community is that they would like the ISG to interdict the kinds of slots that are taking and make valued choices about what's in and kind of what's out and provide that facilitation, we can certainly kind of explore in that direction. But this is the tension we're managing, to give the community the ability, this freedom to operate and storm and norm and then bring it in the process. But if we ultimately hear from the community that there's interest, they want us to make kind of choices. This one's in, this one's out, this one already met. No, you don't get another one. Or even talk about what's allowed to be kind of brief. We could kind of get there. Right now, the rule we have is you can't run a working group session in there. So working group chairs can't call it a third working group slot or a second working group slot, call consensus. That's roughly the line, in addition to the note well applying. We welcome kind of more input kind of on the community side where that balance is. That's roughly where we are right now. So we are not unaware.
So maybe my question then is to the community and to all of us here in this room, what do we want from side meeting rooms?
That's right.
I take your point that, you're not managing them and you haven't been to date, and all of that's fine. I get it. If you're looking for input, so one community member asking for consideration of how to better manage how these timely slots are used up. And the question is really to us, really to all of us. If you want complete open flexibility, fine. If that's a consensus, then that's what we'll do. But other folks should please take the opportunity to tell your ADs and the IST in general, if we'd like to manage that better so that they're better available.
Very much.
Thanks.
We welcome that. And the last one, to your point, I didn't comment on the fact that there's the second IETF inside the side meetings. We are also aware of that and the tension people have, their ability to manage. Are they going to go to the working group, or are they going to try to track potentially this new work that's happening, and the timeliness of kind of scheduling relative to that? We are aware. We're looking for feedback. All right, I see Andrew next in the queue.
Hi, Andrew Camping. Coincidentally, I came partly to make the same point that Jim's just made about the AI task force that always tends to meet at the same time as the ITF. As a suggestion, I think it would be helpful to at least have some very light touch curation to ensure there's space for other topics without getting too heavy-handed in it. So that would be at least maybe a starting point. Conversely, on the AI boss, I'd push back against the comments made earlier and say I think we shouldn't make perfect the enemy of good, as the saying goes. Yes, you could have been crafting those BOF briefs, whatever, for the next couple of meetings, by which time it will be irrelevant to have held them, because we're just not moving at the right speed. So I think it was absolutely the right call to do something now rather than do something better later that was not relevant, and who cares what we think. And final point, really briefly, it said earlier, but I think we all owe the TLS co-chairs and AD a vote of thanks for still bothering to turn up, given the appalling behavior that they've been at the receiving end on. So thank you.
All right, thank you for that feedback, Andrew. Tara.
Hello, Tara Turkey, Sovereign Agency. So first of all, +1 to the solving the side meetings problem. I really missed not having the the public interest technologies group meeting this time. But the main comment I wanted to say up here was just to, thank you all for taking the issue of diversity seriously. I think this is something we talk about nearly every IETF, at least that I've been. But I think at this point we have to stop talking about it as if it's a pipeline issue. Like just simply telling people to apply will never solve this. It's a structural issue. It's not the compositions of the different groups here are not an accidental byproduct of the way we work. They're a result of it. So to paraphrase something Malik Noodle said this morning in the Gen patch about the draft on non-com gender composition, like you can't in the same time want change and then be afraid of it. So I think there's lots of smart people here. We can figure out how to change the structures so that it results in a much more equal representation. Because I mean, as we say, like the internet is for end users. It should represent all the people making the decisions that about this internet should also reflect all end users. And yeah, I mean, and also you forgive me if I'm being a bit incredulous seeing how quickly like the community has moved around AI, whereas this topic has been discussed meeting after meeting. Lots of interest in solving the problem, but not lots of movements towards doing the running code of solving it. So thank you.
Thank you for your intervention. Osama?
Osama to you, Dresden. Thanks. First, I'd like to have a few topics, which is starting with the BOF, like the AI BOFs. I think many people have already commented that the BOFs were not good. I had like a very basic question on how is that AI different from any other workload that we have worked in the IETF, like all the protocols, all the work that has been done. How is that AI that we are all talking about, not only, I mean, by we, I don't mean only academia or the industry itself, like all people involved, like what exactly is it that makes AI different from any other workload, any other protocol that we have used? That simple basic question hasn't got any answers, or any, let's say from my perspective, any response or any answer on what exactly is it that we are selling with the name of AI specifically. But there still remains a lot of interest, and I have seen in the side meetings that, and also there was a point about side meetings. A lot of side meetings are just happening because there is no AI working group, so to say, with the label of AI. People want to do something, but they are not being given a working group, so to say, or a research group. So things are happening in the side meetings that people are somehow trying to do something, trying to figure out what that is. But I think the very basic questions still remain unanswered in this form, as I have given an example. The second point I want to make is that also was mentioned about AI, people generating the drafts using AI. It's very easy to generate a draft now, but it's also putting a lot of workload on the reviewers who are kind of reviewing the drafts, in a sense that, like with one command, you can generate a draft, but now somebody has to put in a brain in order to understand what that is, what these terms are, and what the draft actually is trying to achieve, and so on. So that workload shift from drafting or authoring or editing, whatever, to reviewing, that workload balance needs to be somehow managed. At least in the academia, we have a thing that if you use AI, you properly acknowledge it somehow in acknowledgements or wherever. I think we need these best practices also in the IETF, at least that people who are reviewing the drafts, they know that somehow some part of it or a substantial part of the draft was written using AI, and the authors, even if they use that, other than the acknowledgements, they really have to take responsibility that AI was used, and any mistake, any vulnerability, any kind of problem, they are responsible for it and not the AI itself. The third point I want to make is also somehow related to the side meetings. It was said in a official meeting of the RATS working group that consensus has been developed in a side meeting. That's completely wrong as far as I understand. Side meetings are not supposed, as far as currently the instructions go, and the best I can understand currently, side meetings are not supposed to have the working group business being held in there. And please correct me if I am wrong, all of you. And it was exactly stated like that in a RATS working group official meeting, that consensus has been developed in a side meeting that was held 2 days ago. That's something that blows my mind, and that's something we as a community need to understand, that side meetings should not be used for the working group business, and consensus is to be developed within the working group business meetings and not in these side meetings. The fourth point I want to highlight also is that there are no processes in the IETF. The best I can understand is about the vulnerabilities for the internet drafts and also for the RFCs. If some vulnerability is found or by some process, some implementation is vulnerable to the implementation of some internet drafts, there has to be some process somehow that we can indicate somewhere that this draft is vulnerable to XYZ CVE or XYZ blah, 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 that I think should be a part of the draft itself and the security considerations, or somehow it has to be incorporated. I was told that this is independent from what we do in the standards body, but I don't believe so, that because an implementer has to really get a feeling of what is the security risk that he will obtain, that he will be vulnerable to by using implementing an internet draft which he's reading or is going to implement. So these are my 4 suggestions that I would like to request. Thanks.
Thank you for the feedback. To answer the one specific question, yes, consensus is not called in a side meeting. It is not part of the standards process, as you kind of mentioned the other speakers. I observe the queue is continuing to grow. We do want to get feedback for the open mic. We are soon to be over kind of time, so I would just ask for all those coming up to the mic to be brief and pithy, kind of in their point, and we will equally try in our response to be kind of responsive but brief. Next up, I see Peter.
Hi, this is Peter. So about the time consumption of the AI discussions, I definitely agree that we could have better time total time control and quality control AI discussions. But actually, the side meetings, I see this gentleman discussing the purpose of side meetings. I think side meetings buffs are instruments for IETF to understand and discuss and potentially incubating new work. So I think right now, side meeting does not represent IETF standings or does not go to official proceedings. The working group has their own resource to publish their own consensus on work on everything. So when you look at the total time consumption about AI discussion, there are 4 BOFs or 3 BOFs out of the whole IETF week. There was like 130, 150 total sessions. So that only takes up like 5% of the time. While AI is a new $1 trillion industry, I don't think that's really blocking the IETF pipeline or anything. So like many working groups in the history are somehow experimental or, although they tried their best but failed. But I think at this time, some side meetings or some BOFs that are doing, at least I see the chairs and proponents are trying their best to present a problem statement and a gap and everything. I think those are these things that my message is simple, is that we should at least allow discussions and opportunities at the side meetings and BOF, and of course with a good quality. Thanks.
Thanks for that feedback, and to comment on your stats on number of session requests, you roughly have the size exactly right. Okay, Nathaniel.
Hello. Just a comment. I saw Jay Daly mention the comments that there's an email I can send comments to as well. Just for the side meetings, the biggest challenge that I found with it was trying to follow through on a link. It's going to an unrecorded Zoom meeting or something like that. The slides that are shared aren't easily accessible. And I think that these side meetings could have more value if there was more organization when it's being presented as, here's a link on the IETF website to side meetings, here's a nice interface. In that process, if there was a way to have resources made available the same way as the working group meetings, that would add an incredible amount of value. I know that adds additional labor and work, so there's a balance there, but that's the biggest challenge that I've had working or trying to interact with the side meetings.
Thank you for that feedback. I'm going to catch that one instead of Jay. There is a WebEx that's consistently provided for each of the side meetings. The distinction is it is not the overall kind of standards process kind of vehicle. That is an explicit design choice to separate the things that are inside the process versus the things that are outside the process. But there is WebEx available for each of those meetings.
Hi, Sean Turner, a recovering finance person from the LLC board. I would like to provide a solution to the side meeting issue. If you would like to conflict with an IETF working group meeting, it should cost you some money. At the end of the day, we can decide what that is, but it's good to go. If you're not going to conflict, it's free, and we'll figure that out. I think we're in this problem where it's a simple supply and demand problem, and it's free, so they're going to fill up. If you want to conflict with the actual work of the IETF, write a check.
Thank you, Sean, for your feedback. Ben.
Yeah, hi, Ben Roberts. I'm actually completely new to IETF.
Welcome.
Thank you. But this aspect, I'm hearing a lot about emails and AI flooding email lists. I'm on the board of Afrinic, the Internet Registry for Africa, and we've been having exactly the same problem on the policy development group, and it's gotten really bad and really sophisticated. We're also trying to work out what to do. So I'd like to, we share experiences as we come up with solutions, but it's become a real serious problem of people, really annoying everybody else who's actually a community member, while, it's not just about flooding of messages, repeating of messages, is actually making things unpleasant. So yeah.
We look forward to the ability to share our practices. I can't say best practices, but as they evolve, the same thing, I think we look forward to do that with the ITUT. Thanks again for coming. Philip, there you are.
Yeah, Phil Hornbaker. Yeah, the AI craze is recent, but, AI is not.
as you go, the use case that keeps being thrown at me is, oh, well, I've got one AI here, and when it talks to that AI there, they want to drop into AI speak rather than have to express everything in natural language, which is great, only that's exactly what Tim Berners-Lee was going on about in this thing called the semantic web for 30 years. And so I think that maybe what we should do is make them read his book first.
Thank you for that feedback. I observe that has drained the queue, and we have the LLC in front of us, but I will behind us. I will ask one more time, are there any other questions for the ISG? Someone going to the mic? No, someone is leaving. Okay. Have a good night. No worries. Have a good night. All right, very good. So ISG, kind of thank you. And coming up to answer your questions is the IETF Administration LLC. All right, very good.
Hello again. This is the LLC. Board Chair, Roman, Board Member, Jay, Executive Director. That's all we've got this time. So any questions, comments?
Well, we don't want to forget Rohan's question about San Francisco. Rohan, we punted you. Could you come back up to the mic and give us your question?
Yes, thanks.
Hi. I came upstairs to change.
Oh, okay.
We have an election in the United States ostensibly on the 3rd of November. That's 11 days before IETF 127 starts. What mitigation plans, if any, do you have? What do you anticipate being able to do for IETF attendees in, a variety of bad to terrible situations?
Hi, Rowan. So we have nothing planned for any specific scenarios. That's not anything that we would do anywhere near at this stage. Need to be in a situation rather than guessing there. We do, however, have a BCP produced some time ago, which gives us guidance on how to manage emergency situations and the timing of those emergency situations out from the actual meeting. So if anything were to happen, that actually was something happening rather than being feared, then we would follow that BCP.
Thank you. Next in the queue. Is this the queue? Is this the old queue?
No, that is the queue.
So then it's Phil.
Sorry, Philip, are you in the queue or out of the queue?
Then this is maybe that's the old queue. Well, there's Jonathan then.
There's only
Hi.
one queue. Yeah, Joe.
Is this? Can you?
Yes, we can hear you.
So I was wondering, just as a sort of follow-up to the previous question, what are the plans for keeping people who practice Judaism safe in Malaysia, given that it is a criminal offense there? And as separate from being Israeli, which seems to come up a lot, given that I'm not Israeli.
We don't, as I think you're probably aware, we don't make plans of that for the safety of individuals in that way. We haven't done that in any country, in any IETF meeting. It is an individual choice about coming to meetings. If someone can come to a meeting, we understand that there are often times when people cannot come to meetings. The bigger picture answer, though, to your question, going to the heart of it here, is that we live in a difficult world. We have a very, very broad set of IETF participants,
and finding venues that everybody can be comfortable in every time is impossible. We have to, therefore, to be as fair as we can in distributing the pain. Now, one of the biggest issues that we have, and has repeatedly have had, is about Asian participants unable to get visas, unable to travel to the US or North America or to Europe. And we also have a requirement to meet in Asia. So I understand that this is very difficult for a number of people to go to, as I understand Singapore was very difficult for a number of people to go to. That is a reflection of the world that we live in, where there are different norms. Now, I don't mean to say that in a way as if to devalue and like suggest that there are, you know, that there's some sort of moral equivalence here. That's not my point, all right? But we do have a situation where we simply have to distribute the pain because there is no other solution that we can achieve.
I mean, was there a reason Bangkok was not selected, given that it's, you know, very close by and much more friendly?
We have requirements and requests for multiple different countries because of the way that visas work and the way that people can travel for things. We are going to look at Bangkok again, definitely, all right? But we cannot concentrate simply in single countries, that every country we choose has problems. That's a problem. That's why we have to distribute it.
Thanks for taking that, Jay. I think there's no one else in the queue. I think the ISG drained all the energy. Well, thank you very much then. Wait, what? Oh, Martin.
Hi, Martin.
Sorry.
Martin Duke. I would just like to endorse Sean's idea about the side meetings. Side meeting rooms are actually one of the few things we do that has a high marginal cost for the IETF. And if there's a lot of demand, it would be great to get more, but that costs money. And I think like just having some sort of, I don't want to say nominal fee, but not large in the scale relative to the attendance fee here, might help solve the problem just by getting more inventory and also constraining demand. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the suggestion. That was it, right? Am I missing anyone? No. Well, then I wish you all a good evening and see you tomorrow and next time.
Oh, good to see you in person. Yeah. Always called me. It's all right. Let me just get my bag. I'll